Ladies and gentlemen, big ones and small ones, I'm very happy to welcome you all here today. And I'm very, very excited to be the moderator of this next panel. My name is Kandri Vunder Fantana. I'm the head of Luminor Sustainability Endeavors, Baltic Bank. And I'm here to talk today about climate finance. Why? Why does it matter? We all, especially the younger ones, we want to live in carbon neutral society in 2050. But to get there, the road is really rocky and patchy. And what it needs most of all are those enterprises and entrepreneurs who bring solutions that matter. And this all needs finance. But we are not there yet. And we at Luminor, we stand for climate resilience for us and for our customers. We are there to help our customers to transition to this new world order. And we want to finance it. We want to be there. We want to learn from them and together with them, because the solutions are not yet there. They are coming. So I wanted to make that clear why we are talking about what we are talking about today. And now I would like to introduce to our panel members. So please help me welcome Matthias Spiegel. He is an investment director and partner at Baltic Infrastructure Fund.
Hello.
Hello, please take a seat. He works on increasing the resilience of the Baltics and Poland with a focus on renewable energy generation, energy demand reduction and social as well as transport infrastructure investments in the region. Thank you for joining us, Mattis. It's great to have you on the panel.
Thank you.
As next, I would like to introduce Erkki Ani. Please join us. Let's take a seat. Erkki is partner at Sunli Venture Fund. He's ensuring that some of the Baltics' most pressing problems with regards to energy, transport, mobility, industry, material, tech, in the pre-seed stage are solved. The difficult challenge, because the risks are very high, the funds are very limited. So I'm really happy to have you here on panel. Welcome. And lastly, I would like to introduce Vaida Cesnulevičiūtė, who is the Vice Minister of Finance in Lithuania. She works in the financial services, thank you, and works on the EU investment areas. And he is trying to solve the most pressing problems of Lithuania in terms of unlocking the finance. So welcome and thank you, and great to have you on the board. So to start off this panel, I would like to ask you a question, maybe starting from Lithuania first. So where is Lithuania today in the transition to low carbon economy?
So I can start by saying that greening of the economy and the transition to climate neutral economy is one of the top 3 priorities of the government, and it reflects the direction the EU is taking. And it means that we have to achieve some really important results and make progress in numerous different areas. So it is a greening of the economy, transitioning to carbon neutral economy. It's a huge challenge for different sectors. One of them very clearly is energy sector. And here, for example, in terms of electricity, now Lithuania is an importing country. And we also reacting to the geopolitical reality, to the brutal war that Russia launched in Ukraine, we decided to speed up our efforts because ensuring that we have green energy production in Lithuania, it also ensures our energy independence and energy security. And now it is also very sort of popular topic because during the energy crisis, businesses felt it, people felt it through increased bills they had to pay. That is an important area where we have to invest. So in this area, we have a very ambitious now agenda. We doubled the speed of our energy transition, and by 2030, we plan to produce all energy in Lithuania, because now we import 2/3, and to produce all of it, fully 100 from renewable, so solar and wind. And it is a very, I would say, ambitious agenda, and not many countries have the same ambition. So I know that like Baltic Nordics, we are usually more kind of eager to do that, and Icelanders are already aware for obvious reasons. But for example, like Germany, US, France, they don't even have these sort of ambition. So their transition is going to last longer. When we look at other sectors, of course, we have to green the biggest polluters, which is transport sector, agriculture, and that will take a substantial amount of funds, and not only, but also innovation. If we want to change something, we can't do the same things and expect different results. So we need to have scientists and entrepreneurs willing to end the war in that area. And for that, we are also going to devote a large chunk of public funds, because as I said, greening of the economy, like green transition, is one of the three priorities of the current government, and it clearly is reflected in the funds. So, there is the saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what your values are. So our values are very clearly reflected in the funds, because more than a third of our funds goes into various areas of greening the economy. But I hope I'll have a chance to develop on that further in the discussion.
Thank you for this extensive answer. I think this is a very ambitious target. So that right away paves the way for my next question. Mattis, if you see this ambitious target, you are the one to build those assets to get there. What are the challenges? Can we get there, and how?
Yeah, I would say first of all, it's very nice to be here, and people who know me, they know that I'm a no nonsense, no bullshit person, and it's of course very nice to have such a little bubble here with sustainability and renewable energy and green thinking bubble here. Yeah, but I think there are several prerequisites for the transition to happen, and one of the first things in my mind is a society as a whole. And my polemic question is, where are we as a society outside this little bubble? Are we there already in our thinking and our planning and our daily activities? And I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but I think we are not yet the fully modern society that we wish to be. I think we are still a little bit post-Soviet society in transition that needs to mature to sustainable thinking. And that is explainable by, say, everyday activities that we do when we are faced with a dilemma of whether we should buy purely green electricity or whether we should buy the cheapest electricity, whether we should buy cheap banana or ecological banana, whether we should continue to be subscribers of gas at household, which is financing Gazprom, or we should buy some alternative heating or fuel, for our home. So that is one thing. Second thing, we just had a CEO panel. Who is the CEO of society? It's the government, it's the politicians. They should be the role model, the leader who actually shows the way where we should go. I will definitely not speak about Estonia and Lithuania. I'm not an expert on Estonian and Lithuanian politics, but at home here, I often feel that this CEO is not really showing this clear path to that sustainable model. Often we are the last ones to adopt some EU directives or regulations or renewable energy directive, transport energy law, and implement those ambitious targets that we need to achieve by 2030. And then there are two practical things which are very important. We are small markets, and small markets have imperfections. And those imperfections make it very difficult to execute, for example, renewable energy projects where I'm working very extensively. Like, for example, PPAs or power purchase agreements. There are just three players in the market who actually dominate and determine what those PPAs are, and they can turn the market towards their own interests, they can facilitate the growth, but the market is imperfect. And the other very critical aspect of the market is the bankability and ability to finance the projects. And I'm always laughing that we have these 2.5 banks per project who are interested. Yeah, and there is, first of all, the banks often have somewhat focused level of competence towards some projects and then imbalance towards the others. So in the end of the day, when you are going around with your sustainable, renewable, taxonomy compliant, Article 9, deep green projects, and then you have this mixed response and very, I would say, especially lately, what I get is that, everyone has a feeling that the crisis is over. Yeah, that the extremely high electricity prices, energy prices are over. So we can relax. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to rush anywhere. Yeah. Nobody cares that the price is still 5 times larger than the average before the crisis. No, it's okay. Crisis is over. We can just live. We don't need to finance. We don't need to build. And then when you look in the market, in Latvian market, has one wind park been built since the beginning of crisis? No. Has one wind park been started? No, hasn't even been started. Only planning. So the question is when we will reach that sustainability. We will, but when?
Very relevant questions what you posed there. And I'm going to poke around with those after a while. But first, I'd like to ask Erkki a question. Still, if you're listening to both of these discussions and these ambition targets, from the early startup phase and early technologies phase and the innovations phase, do we have enough coming up in the pipeline to make the target? Do we have the capability to scale them in the Baltics?
Yes, I think increasingly so. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all of these countries share one or a few common things among the innovation. One of them is definitely that if somebody's developing something clean tech or climate tech or sustainability technology, then it's dealing with hardware. So hardware is what actually changes the world, right? So software is an enabler to increase efficiency or decrease emissions and so on and so on. But if you look at startups, then startups definitely from day zero, they don't consider them as some political tools to help save the CO2 emissions for our countries. They look at their, first of all, financial benefits from the company. If so, they look at the impact. They look at what their technology could be able to do. And then if you look at clean tech, then it's getting more and more difficult because the best entrepreneurs coming from this sector and the companies thus as well are coming from the academia, from the research side, meaning that in clean tech, you need so-called deep tech, what we call them now, and you need the researchers then to be entrepreneurial. So now there's suddenly a demand for researchers to also think as an entrepreneur, which is wrong in my opinion, but nevertheless. And then you also have the goals that the governments are pushing, not specifically for the startups themselves, but for example, for the investors, the Article 9 funds, Article 8 funds, etc., that every investment that they make, they need to take into account the investees' impact, their greenhouse gas emissions, etc., etc. So that also poses another layer on top of those researchers or the to-be entrepreneurs or founders. So it's a very tricky situation. But fortunately, again, in the Baltics, we have an enormous and very thorough ecosystem for those clean tech ecosystem players, for the founders. We have the Clean Tech for Baltics, which Imants just recently introduced to you. And in each of the countries, we have the support ecosystems that go through the incubators, accelerators, they have ecosystem gatherings, they do reports, etc. These are the guys that you need to connect with in order to understand where actually your startup is positioned in and what is the impact of your startup, either in your country level, in your regional level, or in your EU and the global level. And from there on, you can actually, I think each of the startups, or all of the startups, should look into also what is their actual impact, how can they influence the local governments in a good way, or what kind of an impact do they have on local governments' climate targets. And then if you kind of map that also to your startup, then you're on a very good path of getting a headwind for your startup, for your innovation, to be further discussed in larger policy auditoriums, etc., etc. For example, we have at COP28 this year, we have the Estonian Pavilion is also there for the first time, which is predominantly composed of Estonian innovation, so startup companies are there. And we're getting more and more understanding that in order to make a shift in the economy, we need to bring more innovation to the table, because we're not looking at sustainable future, we're just looking at the future. So as long as we're talking about, Baltic Sustainability Awards, we haven't reached our targets, right? So we should have the Baltic Awards, or the Baltic Forum, sorry. So I think the sustainability part in there needs to go at some point, and I hope it's sooner than later.
Thank you, Erkki, for this. And I think this is a really nice transfer again to Vaida, because you hear a lot of challenges to get to those ambitious targets, and a lot of enablers, how to get there. How do you see that? What are the challenges in your view? Is there enough finance? How can we unlock finance to get there faster and better?
So it just reflecting to what was said, I think what is important in this path is not to kind of be naive and just to hope that, everyone is seeing in that direction, that it will happen somehow, sooner or later, it will happen naturally. And I was, for example, speaking about our ambition of renewable energy. We managed to double it, and initially we thought we will achieve 50% in 2030, and it seemed fine. But then the war happened, and then the perception in the society changed radically, and we kind of felt the need, we felt the price we are paying because we don't have it, and that what kind of helped to make this push. Another way to kind of influence that is through also public funding, and it's not that we just kind of have an ambition. We support that by channeling large amounts of funds. For example, till 2024, more than 500 million euros will be going to support for companies specifically to innovate and to make their kind of technological changes in their production in a way to kind of green their activities. So public funds are there for those who have ideas, who have an ambition, and at the moment they are here, but we don't know what will happen, after 10 years. So it's better to make this change now, because it will, for now, state takes part of the risk in innovation. We also encourage educational institutions, scientists, to contribute to that project. And those who will succeed will be, the winners of the future economy. So there are also these kind of positive incentives. And of course, eventually, through even the choice of the customers, the transition will have to happen. As a governor, for example, in 2020, we were purchased by public procurement, at least in Lithuania, we spend around 10% of our GDP every year. So it's almost like 6 billion euros every year for public procurement. In 2020, we were buying green public procurement just 5%. This year, we have 100%. Everything that the state as a consumer kind of buys in the market has to be green. So of course, it's also kind of a push from the market. If we look at the consumer needs, so Generation Z, millennials, they are more interested in these topics. They are kind of more prepared to kind of being paid less if they work for the company that has these green goals and green values. Even for investors, we don't have much of the kind of green products in the market that meets the taxonomy requirements. Actually, the recent study by the ECB says that it's around 1% only through all the market that meets those criteria. So it's really, very small amount. There is a potential to rise to like 10 or 15% if those kind of companies that are in the market adapt. But if you talk with investors, a very normal and natural and even expected question is about ESG. So next to financial standing, here comes ESG. We know that for now it's maybe not much of the offer, but that's why we made this Green Finance Action Plan and we approved it in spring to bridge the gap and encourage also not only public funding, but also private funding to go in the market and to encourage to have these green finance products to invest in.
Maybe just before I hand over to the other participants, still a question to hook on this one. Because taxonomy-aligned assets or projects that really meet fully the taxonomy criteria, such a little share, and everybody else needs to transition. What about the finance for the transitioning? Because I think more and more investors, yes, they want to have those green assets on their balance sheet, but they are not there on the market yet. And all the customers, all the clients, all the companies on the market need to transition. So are there already tools, vehicles, ideas on how to finance getting there?
So I think that is it's kind of easy, as you say, to just invest in something that is already green. But if we look at the sectors that are the largest polluters, so it's energy, transport, agriculture, there is no way to kind of survive without these things. So if we want to have a kind of really sustainable economy, there has to be a transition in those sectors. If we look at the balance sheets of our banks, and I also checked the data for Estonia and Latvia as well. So our bank portfolios, they are kind of are more kind of brown, but like double more brown than the average in the EU, just because they have a lot of exposures into these sectors. So it's clear that also the finance sector, in order to kind of maintain their business, they will have to fund the transition of those companies that they can currently have businesses with. And I think the one aspect of how to transition is through innovation, but another thing is kind of understanding what is actually green and what is getting us there. Because it can happen that, of course, large companies, listed companies, they have to comply with the taxonomy and it will be open and clear what is green, but for SMEs, it may not. And we don't want to have situation in the future then it's just too costly for them to access finance because it's too costly to prove if they are greening through their activities or not. Therefore, one of the key aspects in our Green Finance Action Plan is also an open public database, so that also like businesses could access it, those who finance can access it, and it will be open to scientists, and it could be used as a tool to kind of see our transition, see how to make it more effective also through public investment side. But, we still have to get there. It will be done in 2025.
Just a small addition. I have a proposal. You can enforce the public sector, the municipalities, the government, the state-owned companies, municipality-owned companies to actually make taxonomy-aligned procurement by law.
As I was mentioning, we already buy 100% through green procurement, and but it's procurement. Not all the expenditure are through procurement, but we have a goal, and we are now making a pilot together with the European Commission. We are green tagging our budget. So we'll have first green tagged budget of the state by 2026, and then it will be clear where we how much and where we spend and how green is that. And even now, when we do any sort of public investments, we have a law to make cost-benefit analysis, and environmental aspects are in there. But we are also working on strengthening that methodology, having even more kind of assessment on the green part to make sure that any investments we do, they have a positive impact on the environment.
Yeah. Mattis, coming back to you. You're building the assets and it's difficult to finance them. What is needed to make to de-risk them further, to make them more attractive for also, or easier for banks to finance? What needs to change?
I don't want to bore the audience with a lot of technical details, but it's to finance. Let's take a simple example. We are all suffering from high electricity prices. Of course, they are fluctuating, but majority of the, or most of the time now, they are much higher than they were before. 2 years ago. So there are several things that need to be in place to actually finance these projects. Somehow they are either de-risked, that means that the sales of the electricity have long-term contracts. To find those long-term contracts today in these small markets, as I mentioned, is extremely difficult, almost impossible. To hedge them financially internationally, very costly, and almost impossible still, yeah. But then when we go to financial institutions, we are faced with the questions, but I looked at the Nord Pool and there was one negative hour, 1 hour when the price was negative. So, what happens if all of the time the prices will be negative, yeah? And therefore we can finance something, but very little. So when you end up in this trap that you, on the one hand side, you cannot secure high enough long-term contracts to sell, and on the other hand, you cannot prove that, this was 1 hour, but majority of the time that the prices are high, we need to go ahead, we need to build so that prices do get permanently low, yeah? And let's not forget what we have ahead of us. We have February 25 when we will disconnect from Brel. So we need to maintain the balance without the help of Russian nuclear power plants. And I warn you, 25 will be extremely volatile, and we will see very high electricity prices, and that will continue for quite a while till we get this system in place. So if we don't start thinking about that today, and if we just, every day look at the phone and the price development, we will not get anywhere. We need some kind of more deeper competence and understanding financial models, analytical models, looking forward and making assessments, and also supporting development of decentralized, maybe smaller scale projects, because if we are just focusing on the hope that one day there will be these enormously large offshore wind parks or state-developed wind parks in cooperation with state forests, maybe it will be, but when, nobody knows. So if we will just hope that the government or the state-owned businesses will solve the problems, I don't bet on that.
Can I add on that? That's why you need innovation, right? As well. I think people in the audience, if you already have some smart gadgets, smart meters, smart devices that charge your car when the prices are low, that's especially for Estonia, I know for the smart metering part, and then also your floor heating, etc., then you're already a winner because you're adapting to what the actual electricity prices are doing in the market. So I believe innovation plays a huge role in here, but that's only for consumer part. I mean, that's easy. You can get off grid, you can get solar panels and a battery bank, and then kind of play with that along in the market of electricity based on the prices, but also the supply of electricity. But then you go into industry, and that's a whole another thing, right? That's why you need the offshore wind farms and so on, and the local gas plants as well. So I think, and there as well, if I can pitch in, the startups are doing innovation there as well, because for each of the offshore wind farms, for example, you need planning, you need maintenance, operations, reporting, all of that you need, and all this large data that could be gathered nationwide, that can help a lot here. And if you're planning on kind of providing open data from your country to the innovators to say that, hey, here's the data, work with it, do something good with it, and we'll be your customers. that would be an excellent signal for the local entrepreneurs to also start looking into the sector. And then you don't have to be a researcher. You can be a witty software developer as well and make a large contribution.
And if I may add, this suggests I'm always advocating market economy and private capital principles. The less government involvement, the smaller the public sector, the lower the bureaucratic procedures and hurdles, the faster we will get there, what you are saying. Yeah, because this is always the problem, that on the one hand side we want to achieve something, but then we have all these procedures and bureaucracies and the government interference and therefore it's not moving ahead. So I have for many years said, unfortunately, the state is a bad shareholder. Yeah, state is a bad shareholder. At least let part of the state-owned companies that are active players in this sector be IPO'd, listed, so there is a private capital, know-how, ambition, and lift the bureaucratic hurdles.
I used to be 100% agreeing with you, seeing our sustainable development and the slow pace we are making. I don't agree with it anymore, because I think this time the legislation is really on our side, because we don't manage the transition without it. We need to be carbon free already by 2050. We need to be driving cars that are CO2 neutral by 2035. We have to have buildings that there are no more buildings below energy class F and D by 2030 and 33, depending on the countries and sectors. These things, just by our own will on this market, our societies are not able to fund them themselves and just do voluntary actions, because every single euro and cent costs. So
but there is one critical thing. I think I always believe that pure slogans will not work, that we should do this, or we will achieve that, or we will strive there. No. What is economically feasible will be done, unless there is one thing, there is this stick. And the state should keep that stick, or that stick is, this, for example, the Renewable Energy Directive, or the ambitions or targets set for the whole EU, that the national states should implement. And there, unfortunately, you have to use this stick to say, no, you will no longer be able to just, buy this bloody, gas, or which is sponsoring the war. You need to do something else, yeah? But other than that, lift all those controls and let the market actually create those, economically sensible projects, but guide with a stick.
Do you why the CEO?
Yeah, I just cannot not react to that, because I'm so not used to hearing business representative asking for more sticks. We usually
in sustainability achievement, yes.
We usually hear that we need to offer more carrots, but I think what we do, we try to balance that. And of course, as you very accurately said, the change we are talking about, it won't happen just naturally. There have to be a balance. But first we start, I would say, in my opinion, we have way more carrots than sticks, but we have to understand that eventually the sticks will come, and not maybe from the government. They can come from the consumer, from the financial market, and from the other competitors. So now is the time to kind of make this change and maybe be the first one, because those who stay behind may, stay there forever.
So maybe to conclude this panel, could all of you give one thought for the audience, what they can take home with them with regards to finance and change we need in the society, or they can do step by step themselves to help this transition? So,
I can start. I mean, go home and just look at your what you have in your refrigerator. What are your bills? What's in your closet? Yeah. what do you buy, what do you eat, what do you use? Because there are so many things that you maybe even unconsciously continue to use, which are actually not good at all for sustainability, and you can change a lot. You can change what electricity you buy, you can change what heat you use, you can change what clothes you buy, what food you eat, and that will change a lot. Calculate your personal CO2 food.
Erkki?
There's only 2 minutes. Maybe I'd like to turn the tables on the clean tech. So just bringing out here that clean tech is not a trend, right? It's not a bubble. It's not anything like that, because if you look at clean tech categorizes under 2,000 or 1,500 sub-sectors, meaning you have transportation, you have agriculture and food, industry, novel materials, you have resources in the environment, you have enabling technologies, of course, energy, demand storage and power, and so on as well. So that's kind of embedded in the society. So we're talking about the economy itself. So clean tech is not a trend. That would be ludicrous to think about that. Then I don't even know what, because Matisse had very good points here. Just to go through what have you been doing in your life so far. Voting with money definitely is a big thing, but it has two sides. It's kind of a sword with two blades, because if you today have shares in some brown companies, so some oil shale or energy companies that don't behave too good, and then you withdraw your shares from there, then you simply lose your vote rights or voting rights, and give those voting rights to people that still own those shares. So there's a voice, a sustainability voice is then missing from the shareholders group, right? So there should be a shareholders vote out of sustainability in those fossil fuel industries as well. So, but do definitely vote with your money towards innovation. That I would definitely say. If you have an idea in your mind, no matter what ludicrous it might be or sound, then definitely find somebody in your country to pitch the idea or present the idea, and ask if they have anybody else like-minded that would help you kind of develop the idea further, and then that will be your best contribution to sustainability in the long run.
Thank you. Aida?
I think Mattis and Erkki already said it very well. So I just want to emphasize that, as long as we don't all get there collectively and individually, we won't get there. Like government won't do it alone, business won't do it alone. We all have to go that direction in order to get the result. And for that, awareness is very important. As you were saying, look around in your lives and see, how all of us can contribute to that. And I just can say that when we have, for example, our green action plan, when we have even a fintech action plan, they all have one of the cornerstone kind of literacy and education. So I think education is key in this process, because in order to make a change, we also have to have awareness. And sometimes in some of the actions, it's still missing. We lack of understanding. And we also sometimes see the risk of kind of, greenwashing. Then that devaluates all the efforts of those who really try to make a positive impact. So being understanding, being kind of aware, and being very conscious about our choices, I think that's the answer how we can get there.
Thank you. Thank you, panel. It has been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you. And for the rest of the conference, have a good day.